Jules, what do you make of what Stevie had to say about the Ødegaard situation?
Yeah, I think the question has to be asked really about his place in this team, the future. He's been a bit underperforming really the last 18 months. He's still the club captain. Mikel Arteta still loves him. I think he still has a lot of credit in the bank, for sure. But it's a highly competitive squad to start with, because there's players in his own position that can play, that offer something very different to what he has as well. I don't think he will leave. I think there's still a lot of love for him and support for him at the club, especially from Arteta. I think there's a place for him in that team if he gets back to his best, which we saw not that long ago as well. So, but I think it's a good point too, and I think there's probably some fans who share what Stevie thinks. I think it's probably a right question to ask right now, because it's a key moment in this season, and I think right now it's a very important time for Martin Ødegaard, like it is for Arsenal Football Club. And then we see what the second half of the season brings, and then I think we probably have a clearer image or idea of what's going to happen in the summer at the end of the season.
Shaka, if you were Ødegaard, what would you do?
Well, first of all, let me say, I don't see Ødegaard leaving before the end of next season. I think over the course of the next 15 months or whatever it is between now and the end of next season, you may slowly start seeing a change of the guard to Eze playing in that position. I totally understand the sentiment. As you look at Ødegaard and you start to wonder what is his big plus, what is his big upside in this Arsenal side. Still the captain, yes, but I think Declan Rice has established himself more as a leader than Martin Ødegaard to this point. And then when you look at the stats between him and Eze, certainly Eze stands out, and he's been kind of stop-start, or at least Arteta has made him a little bit stop-start. But Ødegaard, for me, hasn't been the player that we saw 2 years ago, and is not the player that Eze is, who would engage defenders and make you rethink, given his runs and his talent on the ball. He's not the kind of passer that maybe you saw 2 years ago, or you associate with somebody sitting in that position, like a dare I say, Kevin De Bruyne. So he doesn't scare you. It doesn't scare you in terms of his role and that position. So without that leadership aspect of it, what is Ødegaard's primary role in this team, defining role in this team? I'm not sure that is there anymore. I still think that given how things are going, there won't, especially if Arsenal go on and win the title, there won't be major change in the summer. That will come a little bit slower, which is why I say I don't feel we'll be having that earnest discussion about Ødegaard's future until this time next year, thinking what's he going to do come summer 2027.
Jules, up next, of course, is the London derby, Arsenal facing Chelsea. Do you feel like Ødegaard will start in this one?
I think this is really interesting, because he didn't start against Spurs last Sunday because he was not fully fit, just coming back from an injury. And don't forget that Eberechi Eze didn't start in that number 10 position, that right-hand side in the midfield 3 position. In the previous league game against Wolves, for example, because Bukayo Saka played there like he did when he played in the FA Cup against Wigan 3 days or 4 days before. So I don't know, you would think that with the momentum of the performance that Eze had against Spurs, that it would be him, especially if Ødegaard is not fully fit yet to start a Premier League game of this caliber with the intensity and everything that is at stake in the game. Maybe. But I don't think it's a given either for Eberechi Eze to start that game. And you could see Ødegaard could play there. You could see maybe something slightly different from a Mikel Arteta point of view, maybe in that midfield. My money is on Eze, and I think it's, I'm sure the boys would agree with me. But again, we've seen a few surprises from Arteta in that position already this season.
Well, let's see if the boys do agree with you. Stevie, do you agree with Jules that your money's on Eze to start?
Well, yes, I think he should start. But as Joe said at the end there, Arteta's done some, he's thrown some wobblies at us. And so if you're Eze, you can't be totally confident. You're actually, if you're Eze, sitting waiting on that team sheet going up. Because he's been in and out as well. A couple of weeks ago, he looked frozen. Never mind Ødegaard. Now, all of a sudden, he's back in pole position. So I expect Eze to start, but with Arteta, you never know. Do you think that comes from Pep? I mean, Pep used to do that all the time. I think sometimes he thinks back to what Pep did, because he thinks he's surprising teams. But unfortunately,
guessing.
too many times, yes, you surprise the opposition, but you surprise your own team and you upset your own team as well. So if Arteta's got his try to be clever head on, then I don't know what to expect.
I'd start Eze. And I'd start Eze because of how I expect Chelsea to play. Now, given what you saw, particularly in the second leg of that Carabao Cup, where Chelsea just kind of, albeit was at Arsenal, Chelsea just kind of sat and defended. And was it at Arsenal or Stamford Bridge's second leg? Whichever way. Chelsea just sat and defended and hoped to bring a surprise in the last 15 minutes. I expect Chelsea's approach to be very much the same this time around. Again, just sit back, defend, soak pressure up, and hope to come out in the last 15 minutes. In which case, you need somebody just to shake things up a little bit in that attacking third. And Eze can be that for Arsenal when Arteta allows him to be. So for me, if I'm picking the squad, I'm picking Eze to give Chelsea a whole lot more to think about.
Well, Jules, Arsenal got a big result in the North London derby, but they did drop some points in their 2 games before that against Wolves and Brentford. So looking at this matchup now against Chelsea, could this be another potential banana skin for Mikel Arteta?
I think it's a massive game because of the momentum that they have now after that win against Tottenham last Sunday. That doesn't mean that you forget what happened against Brentford and Wolves when you dropped those points, when you were leading as well in those games, which is something that you can't really afford to do when you are in this kind of title race with a team like Manchester City. But there's that momentum. You're back at the Emirates as well, which I think is very important. And you're facing a Chelsea team that we saw against Burnley probably deserved to lose that game at Stamford Bridge against Burnley. That the week before that could only draw against Leeds again at home after being 2-0 up in that game. So it's not the best version of Chelsea right now. I think Rosinho is still finding out or trying to figure out what is the best formula for his current team. Is it Cole Palmer on the right-hand side? Where do you play Enzo? If you play Enzo as a 10, I'm not sure this is very good for Palmer. If you play Palmer as a 10, that means you play Enzo deeper. I don't think this is really good for Enzo, especially for a game like this against Arsenal. So there's a lot of question marks over what Rosinho has to do or is doing or is not doing, maybe even at Chelsea. So it's probably a good time if you're Arsenal to play Chelsea. It's probably a good time for Chelsea to play Arsenal, and in a way, having to be fully focused, a bit like what Arsenal had to do when they went away at Spurs last Sunday after the Wolves result. That is a bit similar to what Chelsea went through with the draw against Burnley at home. So it's quite similar, but Chelsea need to wake up pretty quickly. Otherwise, even that 4th and 5th place could escape them very quickly against Liverpool and United.
All right, with all that said, let's have a look at the predictions that our panel has for this one. Surprise, surprise, surprise. We all went for a win for Arsenal.
What that means?
Chelsea are going to win.
What that means?
Chelsea fans, we have just jinxed Arsenal for you, so you're welcome in advance.